with MS Dhoni. I remember asking him, what is the greatest gift that you've ever been given? Let me give you a hint. Your daughter. And he says, no, that wasn't a gift. It was hard work. It was horrifying in the first 4 days because the first 4 days was the song. She says, you are shaking your shoulders like Sunny Deol. Women shake hips. It was lovely shooting with Shah Rukh Khan because he just made you feel so comfortable. I get a call from Sony saying, how would you like to host the Cricket World Cup? And there were about 1,000 women who auditioned. I would ask a question. The legends sitting on the left and the right would stare at me like that and turn to their camera and then just talk about whatever it is they wanted to talk about. At the end of every show, I would put my head down and I would cry. I remember Saif's father, Mr. Prodding, said, you're the Mandira Bedi everyone's talking about.
Wow.
People on social media tell me you're so ugly, you're so fat, you're so old. There was a Mandira meter. Every day they'd give a marks out of 10 on my clothes. I went to hypnotherapy for 2 things. I lost my husband 3 years ago, probably the first time I'm talking about it. One thing I still can't do is I can't listen to Kishore Kumar music. It brings tears to my eyes. A couple of my contracts say you're not allowed to get pregnant.
So talk to me a little bit about postpartum because it's
That's also something people don't talk about.
Exactly. How did you make this decision to adopt?
Me and Veer flew from Bombay on a private jet. And for a girl who's never sat in a car before, she took a trip on a private jet. Entertainment is a business where women have a shelf life. And I hate the word shelf life, but I say shelf life because it's so disgusting. This is one question that's off the table.
Welcome to Humans of Bombay, Mandira, to our Vodcast that you have just taught me that word exists.
Well, I didn't know that the word existed. Somebody introduced it to me and I liked the sound of it.
Yes, even I like the sound of it. So I just went with
Let's call it a podcast, at least for today.
Okay, fine. This is our Vodcast.
It is.
I'm so excited to be doing this. I was discussing with you offline. We have a very big thing in common, which is cricket.
Yes.
But outside of that, you've had such a tremendous journey and you've been an actor, fashion designer. You are the most popular female cricket face in India. You're also an author, you're a mother, so many different roles. And you've always said that it's never too late to begin. So
it's never too late for anything, not just beginning. It's never too late to do anything that you want to do in life.
So talk to me about that. How have you managed to invent and reinvent time and again over the years?
I think reinvention is just simply adapting to the times.
Yeah.
There's a certain, way life goes, and when you respond to the call, that's what reinvention is. So, like even when I got into the space of fitness, it's not because I said, oh, now, I think on social media, people should find their thing and become an influencer or anything like that. Nothing like that. Fitness was very much an important part of my life. Just to give you an example, was a very important part of my life, and I just started posting stuff on social media, on Instagram, and suddenly brands started coming to me, and I became associated with fitness. I think it was just a natural progression to the things I've done and to what drives me and what excites me. And I believe if you put energy and effort and your passion into anything that you love, it can become a part of your life. It can become your career. It can become something you do. So as far as invention and reinvention is concerned, I never really put too much thought into it.
But how important?
Like even cricket. Now you speak of cricket. I'm sure you have a question on cricket.
Lots, so many.
But I just want to say that even cricket was something I really enjoyed. I used to watch it. I grew up in a family where my father and my brother used to watch cricket. And it was not the case like it is now where you had many channels to choose from. When cricket was on, cricket was on.
Yeah.
So either you stayed in the room or you walked out of the room. And there was not another channel to switch to, right? So I started watching cricket. I loved cricket. And then I literally went to another country to watch cricket, and that's how cricket happened for me.
And how did you hone this kind of mindset, right? Like, because even when you look at like your formative years, you wanted to be a banker. You grew up in Calcutta.
Hey, I wanted to be a banker because my brother was a banker.
Yeah.
He's my greatest role model.
Okay.
Was, still is. But I didn't have the ability or the, the aptitude. I didn't have the aptitude to be a finance person. I didn't have the app. My brother went to IIM Ahmedabad.
Yeah.
Okay, I went nowhere. There were people who were saying to me, you're not cut out for math. You're not cut out for finance. Maybe you should look at something which is more creative. I also got a job as a writer in a very big ad agency, and that was the first job I got. And simultaneously, I got Shanti. So I was like, what do I do? What do I choose?
And Shanti was a very defining moment, and it was a very strong female-led character in a time where women characters were essentially submissive.
Yes.
In that time.
That's right.
So talk to me about that, right? Like, did you identify with that role?
Well, Shanti was definitely before her time. She is a character that's very relevant even today. She was a very strong woman who went out and did whatever she felt was right, stood up for causes, stood up for herself. And, that was the time of no email. That was the time of you used to get fan mail, actual physical fan mail. And I remember the studio we shot in, there'd be a room this big full of sacks of letters and postcards and inland letter forms of women who'd write to me saying, you inspire us.
Wow.
Because it was such an inspiring character that I got to play. And I'm very grateful because I think a lot of her rubbed off onto me. I mean, what she believed in and what she stood up for and what she was all about. It was like she stood up for her convictions, whatever she felt was right. And towards 2 years into shooting Shanti, I was fighting for the cause of the food that was being served on the set. I went with a dabba of food to our producers and said, I challenge you to eat this.
Oh my God.
And those were not the days we used to come. I never used to go with an ice box and with my own food. I used to eat the set food, and the set food was bad.
Yeah.
That's an aside. But I'm saying I stood up for myself and for people around me because of Shanti.
I mean, and then of course, the very iconic DDLJ happened. I mean, I don't even know how many times I've seen that movie.
I've seen it only once.
What?
Yes.
Really? Hi guys, I hope you're enjoying the podcast so far. Do let us know what you think down in the comments. We always read what you have to say. And on that note, I want to fill you in on something really exciting that we're building at Humans of Bombay. So you guys know, we've mastered the art of storytelling for the past 10 years. And you have trusted us to tell your story. So now it's time for us to empower you. So me, along with 5 other experts, have curated a course for just that, where you learn how to tell your story in different settings. So it's called How to Tell Your Story, and the course is live now. You can check it down below in the link or even on the pop-up here. And with that, let's get back to the podcast.
I saw it on the day of the premiere, and I know I gave 22 days to shoot it. And when I saw the premiere, I'm like, is that it? There's no more? Are you serious? You blink and I'm gone. But, and at that point I was like, I wish I gave 22 days to it and I don't see myself very much in it. So I never saw it again. I never saw it on the multiple reruns on the various channels that it came on. I've never gone and seen the matinee show. But I look back now, not now, I look back for the last few years, I've been looking back on it and thinking it's wonderful to be a part of something that broke all records and no record can ever break it. It's wonderful to be a part of something that created history. It is an amazing movie. I mean, all told, it was iconic, and I wish I was a little bit more in it.
But your role was very sweet and very iconic.
Yeah, everybody says sweet.
Yeah,
so
very sweet.
And it's nothing like me. It's nothing like Shanti. It's nothing like anything I've played. I'm standing over there with a tray in my hand. I'm tilting my head like a puppy dog. Yeah, I mean, sure, it was very sweet.
It was cute.
Cute.
Sweet and cute.
That's right. But it's nice to be a part of history. It's nice to be a part of something that big. Small part of something very big is also,
it's extremely important. Yeah,
it is, and to work with Shah Rukh Khan, to work with the Chopras, Aditya Chopra's first, and the only Hindi movies I grew up, because I grew up in South Bombay. The only Hindi movies I watched were Yash Chopra films. So I loved Chandni, and I was like, wow, I get to work with that camp. Yeah. So that was it. I mean, after that, I got offered to be everybody's sister and everybody's bhabhi and everybody's second lead, and I didn't want to do that. So I said no to a lot of work after that, because that was also the time of, when things was stereotyped. So you played a certain kind of character, and then you got offered only those kind of characters afterwards. You couldn't rise to the ranks of a lead role.
Yeah.
So I just said, no, I don't want to be somebody's sister and somebody's bhabhi. I've done it once and I've ticked it off. I've done it for the Yash Chopra camp, and no more of that. I'd rather do big and, meaty roles on television than small, insignificant roles on film. So I said no to a lot of stuff after that, and I did a lot of television. I did a lot of daily soaps, and at one point I was like, you know what, this is like punching a card. I'm doing it like, when you're doing a 4-day-a-week or a 5-day-a-week show, you are shooting and you're playing a main lead or whatever, you're shooting like 20-something days a month.
Wow.
You don't have a life.
Sounds exhausting.
You're literally going to work every day, like you go, for a 9-to-5 job.
Yeah.
So I did that from 1994 to 2002, 2003.
Yeah, we'll come to that. But you have to tell me, what are some of your memories from the set of DDLJ? Because I know you watched it once, but it's too iconic to skip over. Like, we must talk about how was the experience.
The experience was fantastic. It was horrifying in the first 4 days, because the first 4 days was the song. I started with Mehndi Laga Ke Rakhna. And trust me, I'm telling you, I do not, I'm not unconfident in front of the camera, but the only thing I still have nightmares about is choreographed numbers, choreography.
Yeah.
I mean, and there was Saroj Khan, absolute legend. And she's telling me, she says, you are shaking your shoulders like Sunny Deol. You need to shake your hips. Women shake hips. And I couldn't shake my hips for love or for money. I was like, I can't do this. And to start off with the song was very hard. I mean, it would have been nice had we done a few scenes and I would have eased into it. But the first thing we did was, it was in Filmistan. First thing we did was shoot the song. And that orange and purple thing that I wore, I've never worn something like that before or since. It was an interesting outfit, and I enjoyed it. I mean, I enjoyed it eventually. By the end of it, I was getting the sort of hang of shaking my hips. But I wish I'd started with this scene. It was lovely shooting with Shah Rukh Khan, because he just made you feel so comfortable. He's such a natural, and he was so kind. And even with my retakes with the song, he was just very accommodating and very nice. And Kajol also, she didn't take to me the first few days, but eventually she did. And we all got along really well. And it was just a really nice experience, all told, in my 22 days. And I look back at it just with a lot of gratitude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one for the books, definitely.
Yes.
So we go to 2003, where I think life changed for you.
Completely.
In a very, very kind of like unexpected way, because
it changed my life completely.
But it also changed the trajectory of a lot of things in the cricket context generally.
It did.
Yeah.
Of course it did.
It's not just your life. It changed a lot in that context, because the association of a powerful, strong woman speaking very well and very eloquently about cricket was so refreshing. It continues to be very, very refreshing. And I think that you're the pioneer, because I think that it opens so many doors. Like, I feel like I want to do that someday, because I love cricket. I'm obsessed with cricket.
That's lovely.
So,
Yes, it feels nice. It feels nice that cricket telecast after 2003 changed.
It changed.
There was always a place for a woman in cricket telecast, which there wasn't before.
Yeah.
But I did the hard yards, I have to tell you. Now the girls have it much easier. They just get the gig.
Yeah.
They go stand in front of the camera and say something and they get the gig. They get the, the audition happens and I did the hard yards. I got so much flack. You have
So
no
talk
idea.
to me about that. How was the entire experience?
Well,
and of course, let's first, before even getting into the process, you've loved cricket.
I've loved cricket. I've grown up watching cricket, but it's one thing when you're sitting on a couch and you're sitting with a couple of buddies of yours and you're like ha 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 and you're talking about what you think about the match, and there's no judgment on you, and you're not speaking a cricket language, you're speaking just the language you know. And then it's another thing when you're sitting on a panel and you're expected to speak a certain language.
Yeah.
So
the cricket vocabulary.
Yes, it's a huge difference between that and this. So again, it's about going with the flow. I love cricket, and in 2002, India beat England to make it to the semi-finals of the Champions Trophy, which was being played in Sri Lanka. And I had a lot of friends in cricket, and I knew I'd get myself a ticket. That's not a problem. So I just bought my ticket to Colombo, and I said I'll watch the semi-finals and finals there. And I went to watch the semi-finals, and I went to watch the finals as well. It was a very unique tournament because it had two finals. Both of them got rained out, and eventually they declared Sri Lanka and India joint winners. But anyway, when I was there, this wonderful lady called Sneha Rajani, who, she's the reason I did cricket, I guess. She was the head of Sony Max, and Max was telecasting the Champions Trophy then. She came and she saw me everybody's hanging out at the same hotels and stuff. So she saw me having lunch one of the places, and she sat down. She said, "What are you doing here?" I said, "I've come here to watch the cricket." She said, "With your own money?" And you see, we get flown around everywhere. Yeah. We get invited to places, and she said, you paid for your own ticket and come here? I said, "Yeah." And that was it. And after that, I went and watched the game and came back to Bombay. A month later, I get a call from Sony saying, "We'd like you to come in for a meeting." And I have absolutely no idea what the meeting is about. I never said, "What is this about?" I went into the meeting cold. And Sneha's called for this meeting, and she sits down in front of me, and suddenly there are like 7, 8 other people it's a big office, come and sit. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? And then they said, "Oh, there's a test match going on at the moment. Do you happen to know the score?" And I said, "Yes, the score is so-and-so, and Sachin's on so-and-so, and I happen to know." So then they started shooting these questions on cricket. And they were just not very difficult questions, just about what is a Yorker.
Like awareness.
Basic awareness. Yeah. And after that, they said, "How would you like to host the 2003 Cricket World Cup that's going to be held in South Africa?" And I'm like,
wow.
How would I like to? I'd love to.
Yeah.
But it wasn't as easy as that. They said, "Okay, we'll set up some auditions." And there were about 1,000 women who auditioned. I'm not kidding. They took an interest in me because I was there.
So they knew you were already inclined.
Yeah, I'd hosted nothing before this. Zero. So all that I'd done up until that point was fiction.
Yeah.
A lot of daily soaps, but fiction.
And then attending cricket games.
And I attended a cricket game here or there because I loved the sport. And so they called me in for one audition, and they put something in my ear, and there was a voice speaking to me, and I'm like, what's going on? And there's this camera on me, and the red light comes on, there's another red light comes on, and Charu was my co-host. It was a mock-up where, you're given a situation and we had to talk about it. Eventually I was called for a second audition, I was called for a third audition, 3 auditions. And they were auditioning a lot of other people alongside. And then at the end of, say, a month and some, maybe 6 weeks, Sneha says, it was between you and somebody else, and everybody else wanted the somebody else, and I chose you, and I really think you have it in you, and these are the dates. Do you think they'll work out? And I'm like, yes.
They work out.
They will work out. Yeah. And it was 6 weeks away, and I couldn't believe my luck that I've gotten to be a part of this. 3 auditions later, albeit, but I'm a part of it. And even the experience when I got there, it's one thing when you're in a room like this. There are 10 people in the in the studio, and you know that you're speaking into a camera and the red light has come on and you've spoken, you said whatever, and there's only 10 people.
Right.
It's another thing when you're sitting in a studio with a table mountain behind you, and the words you are uttering are going across to a billion people.
Yeah, basically a billion people. Yeah.
So I had a lot of baggage. I came with a lot of nervousness. I was like, oh my God, this is it. This is like the red light comes on and I speak and I can just mess things up and I can be awful and I can be awesome and it's all on me. And I was a little bit, very nervous.
Very nervous, yeah.
And I have to tell you something. It was not easy because they've never had a woman sitting on the panel. So the legends sitting on the left and the right, they weren't particularly excited about having a woman on the panel. So I would ask a question and some of my questions were really, silly, irrelevant, stupid. But my brief was, to be fair, this. You go and ask, there was no teleprompter, there was no script. Words, questions that come to your mind, just ask them. Whatever you have in your mind, it's not off the table. Go ahead and ask.
Yeah.
So if I've got those questions in my mind, somebody at home has got similar questions in their mind. Yeah. I'm not supposed to represent the purist. I'm supposed to represent the common person. So anyway, I'd ask questions and legend on my left or legend on my right, whoever I've asked the question to, would stare at me like that and turn to their camera and then just talk about whatever it is they wanted to talk about.
Without acknowledging.
Without even acknowledging what I had asked. And that was just not helping my confidence. And our programming is wraparound programming. An hour before, mid-innings, and an hour after. At the end of every show, I would put my head down and I would cry. And the people sitting on my left and right would say, I'm going to go and get some coffee. Would you like some coffee or something? And just leave. I was just miserable. And nobody said anything to me for the first 1 week. And 1 week later, they said, I think it's time we need an intervention because I was stuttering and stumbling and making a mess. I was nervous and I was not getting any support from anywhere. I was pushed into the deep end and it was sink or swim for me. And if nobody acknowledged what I'm asking, I had a co-host, his questions were acknowledged, but mine weren't. So they said, I think it's time we have a conversation. And I was very insecure. I thought, and there were two other women who were doing all the on-ground interviews and stuff. I was sure they were just going to sit me down and say, you know what?
It's not working out.
It's not working out. Instead, they sat me down and said, Mandira, we've done auditions with about 1,000 women. We've chosen you. We know you have what it takes. You're not a commentator. You're not an analyst and you're not an expert. You are not there to represent the purist. You are there to ask the common person's question. Everything that comes into your mind, anything that comes into your mind is valid. All right? We want you there because we don't want you to ask the purist question. So ask whatever you feel like asking. Bring some fun into that boring panel. And really nothing's off the table. So have fun. Enjoy yourself. And I'd read this somewhere, and any book of spirituality will tell you, heaven and hell is in your head.
Yeah.
You have happiness is a choice. It really is a choice. You can turn that switch. And with that one conversation and the belief that they had in me, I decided to turn that switch. And I said, okay, you know what? Nothing is off the table. They've chosen me and I've got this. I'm going to give them the fun they want. And I remember it was like, we'd done the morning show, we'd done the mid-innings show, and it was the post. And I went there and I said, I'm going to have fun. And I asked whatever question. I hadn't even seen the innings because the whole innings went by in this conversation and some tears and all of that. And with tear-stained cheeks, I went on the panel and I asked legend number one my question. And as he always did, he didn't answer. And I'd say, but sir, you didn't hear my question. My question was this. And it's live television, so he had to answer.
Yeah.
And whoever did that with me thereafter, I'd prod and I'd poke and say, what about this? You didn't answer
Like,
my
what
question.
about me? Hello.
Yeah. And it just, and I just started smiling, and I just started enjoying myself, and I realized the power I had. And it was amazing. Heaven and hell is in your head. And from hell, 1 week of hell, and 1 week of, I don't even know what, no, I did know, because I got to know later, what the people, the media, what everyone was saying about me. That was hell to heaven. I just started loving the time over there. I couldn't wait to be on the show. I couldn't wait to put people on a spot if I had to. And it was just wonderful. It just changed after that. And, towards the end, I remember Saif's father, Patodi. He came, Mr. Patodi came to our studio, and he said, "You're the Mandira Bedi everyone's talking about."
Wow.
Did he just say that about me? Yeah. And honestly, Sony was so amazing. They did not let me, and that was not the time where you could just type Mandira Bedi and get all the news that was written about you. You had to get onto a laptop, and you had to log on to the internet, and you got tee-yaw would play out, that sound would play out, then you'd be on the internet, then you'd get on to see what was being written. So they kept me away from all of that. And it's a good thing, because had I read all the things people had said about me at the time, I would have been just shattered. Yeah. But I really found my space, and halfway through the tournament, I had the guts. I developed a thick skin by then. I got the guts to look at what people were writing about me, and people had changed. Some of them had changed their opinion about me, and I felt confident, and I felt good, and I knew I had this. I got this. And cricket taught me a couple of things. One is heaven and hell is in your head. The second thing it taught me was, that whenever I do anything live, whenever I do anything like right now, live, it's being recorded, but it's live. We're not going to do a retake. Yeah. That rather than, worry about lines that you've messed up, or, you stuttered on something and fumbled on something, and I used to dwell on them. I used to make a mistake, or if somebody didn't take me seriously, didn't answer my question, I'd just get caught up in a downward spiral, and it would show on my face. And so either I'd be just, dwelling on the past, or I'd be saying, I've written this amazing piece. My throat to Rahul, the Rahul Dravid story is going to be just amazing. I'd be just thinking about that. I'd cease to be in the present moment. And what cricket taught me, and doing live cricket taught me, was can't dwell on the past. You can't keep on thinking about the past. You can't stress or worry about the future. All we have is this moment, this present moment. So live this moment, be in the moment, listen to what's going on, respond to what's happening right now. What'll come will come. And when you come to it, you deal with it, right? So it taught me to be present. It taught me to be and enjoy and love and live the moment, because all we have is the moment. All we have is this breath. And the third thing it taught me was, cricket was where people had very differing opinions about me. While I did Shanti, everybody loved Shanti, and it was a very strong character. There's nobody who said, "Oh my God, I hate Shanti." No. And the characters that followed that I played were, here people had an opinion. They either liked me or they hated me. There was no in between. And what cricket taught me was that not everybody has to like you, and it's all right.
It's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah, so important. And it's very interesting that you say all these things, because I feel like people's opinions are so far away from your truth. Like it's so disconnected that it almost seems irrelevant beyond a point, right? Like
people on social media tell me, "You're so ugly, you're so fat, you're so old, you're so dumb, you're so stupid." Does any of it make it the truth?
Yeah, no, absolutely not.
And there was a time, of course, I'm not, when I first got onto social media and I saw something negative written about me, it would disturb me, and now it's like, it's their problem.
Yeah, it's like a you problem. Yeah. But did it, back in the day, like say, a great point of conversation, outside of the fact that you're one of the only female voices in 2003 to be commenting on cricket, which is a huge deal. Things like the noodle strap blouses, which is very attached to your name for some reason, and I think they're lovely. But there's so much chatter and conversation.
There was on my clothes. There was a Mandira meter.
What?
There was a newspaper it was a midday. Midday carried a Mandira meter. Every day they'd give a marks out of 10 on my clothes. And sometimes it would be like, her outfit was all right. It was nothing to write home about. But she said this to this commentator. So just for that, we're giving her a 10 on 10.
We'll take it.
We'll take it.
Yeah.
We'll take it. So it's nice that I became associated with saris because of that. Sari is an integral part of who I am. I even designed saris for a while. And I enjoyed that. I love saris. And so that noodle strap blouse was not the only... I was not the only person wearing it. There were loads of people wearing it. I was the only person on a cricket panel wearing it. So it became a thing that people talked about. Did it bother me? No, it didn't. It was all a part of that whole package
that came with it. Let's talk about the fun stuff, right? Like, you had so much fun, and of course, what an experience. So my next question is, through the years, tell me some of the most iconic conversations you think you've had with cricketers that you've seen on screen, and then next minute
interviewed them.
You're there,
yes, I've interviewed almost. Some of the young guys now, no, but I've interviewed most of them, and what lovely conversations I've had. Of course, they're a little bit guarded, but the one who I find and who's my favorite, I unabashedly say so, is MS Dhoni, because I find him very genuine. I find him very, what you see is what you get. He doesn't hold back. He's not guarded. And as a cricketer, as a captain, as a person, I'm his biggest, I'm a big fan. And I've really enjoyed interviewing him. I've done lots of interviews with him. And he'll come up with a little twist, an answer with a twist. He's not, there's some people who are politically correct, but he's not, and he'll be tongue in cheek. And I remember asking him, what is the greatest gift that you've ever been given? I said, let me give you a hint, your daughter. He says, a most priceless gift. Let me give you a hint, your daughter. And he says, no, that wasn't a gift. It was hard work. So he'd always come up with a little, there's one particular interview I did with him for one of the brands, and that snippets of that are all over Instagram. They keep popping up, and I keep, seeing them, and I was like, oh.
Can I just say, in this moment, I'm just so positively envious of you. In the way that I can't wait to be and achieve what you've done, because it's so inspirational.
Thank you.
And I really mean it when I say that it wouldn't have been possible if you didn't pave the way and nudged and prodded and poked and said, hello.
Yes.
What about my answer?
Yeah.
I asked you.
That's right.
So thank you.
They all disregarded me, but eventually they had to take me seriously.
Yeah, and like you said,
just remember, sink or swim in life. We're always pushed into the deep end in multiple spaces and for different occasions, and you just have to sink or swim.
Yeah, we just keep swimming.
Keep swimming.
Yeah,
keep swimming.
Amazing. So I want to go deeper into your mindset. You spoke and touched about spirituality, and I see it on your Instagram post, and it's so positive. And the thing that you said about heaven and hell. So this is one of the other things we have in common, is that I'm extremely spiritual, and I've read pretty much a lot of books on mind and body and soul. And were you always spiritual? How did you arrive?
No, I wasn't. I didn't know what self-love was. I believe that you have something that's going on in your life and you're not feeling good about it. If you can deal with it in one day, great. And if you're able to move on, great. If it's something that troubles you for a period of time, do something about it. So I went to her. So that was the first clinical psychology. I've been to a clinical psychologist, clinical therapy. Then I've got a spiritual therapist as well, who will give me a perspective, no one's ever given me medication. I've never needed medication, but I've done therapy of every kind. But what really, tipped the scales for me in a good way for the anger issues was hypnotherapy.
Oh.
It was absolutely amazing. And it's not like people think hypnotherapy is this thing where you're sitting over there and there's somebody with a pendulum and you're googly-eyed and then you start blurting out stuff.
Yeah.
No, it's nothing like that. And you're not even lying on a couch. This looks like a therapist's couch, but you're not lying. You're not lying on a couch. You're just sitting on a very comfortable, like, recliner sofa, and you close your eyes and they take you to a space of such relaxation that you're able to access parts of your mind which you can't otherwise access. You would know this since you read so much, that our conscious mind uses only like 2%. Yeah. 98% is stuff we push down, memories we don't want to revisit, stuff we don't want to deal with, stuff we don't want to process, all goes down into that 98%. And a lot of our patterns emerge from stuff we've not dealt with. Yeah. So during the hypnotherapy, you get into this space of beautiful, deep relaxation, and you can access certain parts of your mind, certain memories that brought about this pattern in you. And it was amazing. And they give you ways of just dealing with it and telling your 9-year-old, there's a certain incident when you were 9 years old. There's a certain incident when you're 15 years old. And during that hypnotherapy, you're telling your 9-year-old self or your 15-year-old self, you're giving her a hug and saying, you know what, it's all right. You can let go of this now. Because your 13-year-old self didn't let go of it. She pushed it down, didn't deal with it, didn't process it. And so you deal with the things that you should have dealt with, but perhaps didn't have the knowledge to deal with it or the awareness to deal with it earlier. And you deal with it, and you let go of stuff, and you wake up feeling like this huge burden is lifted.
Like free.
I went to hypnotherapy for 2 things. One was my anger issues, and the other was my addiction to sweet. Sugar.
Wow, that's so interesting.
And now I think it's not like I don't get angry at all. There are certain situations that warrant anger, but I'd fly off the handle at the drop of a hat earlier. Now I don't.
Wow.
So I have really worked on myself to deal with my anger. I've worked, and post that, whenever I feel negative, whenever I feel upset, if it's a small thing, I give myself that time. I say, you know what, for one day I can cry if I want to, I can feel horrible if I want to, I can just keep dwelling on it if I want to, but next day I've given myself the time to deal with it. Next day I've moved on. But if it's a bigger thing and it requires some help, outside help, I will take the help. I will, go to the therapist. I'll meet the therapist. I'll do as many sessions that are, as are required. Even with I lost my husband 3 years ago. I dealt with the grief the way it needed to be dealt with. There's no shortcuts when it comes to grief. They say the only way on the other side, to get to the other side is through.
You have to get through it.
You have to get through it to get to the other side. So even with my son, he needed therapy. I made him have therapy sessions as well, because I think, I'm not one of those moms who say, don't cry, boys don't cry. I say, when you feel like crying, please cry. Get it out of your system. Whatever you're feeling, get out of your system. You'll feel lighter. That's processing. Self-love also. I didn't know what self-love was. People mistake self-love for selfishness. It's not that.
All the time.
Yes, self-love. Self-love is taking care. It has 2 aspects. Taking care of yourself, okay, so that you can be the best version of yourself. So if that means going to the gym or going to meditate or going to, do a little yoga or read a book, whatever it is that makes you happy, do it. So that you can be the best version of yourself for your children, for your parents, for your husband, for people around you, for your profession. You're a happy person and you land up and people say, oh, it's nice to have her around. So that's one part of self-love. The other part of self-love, one is to take care of yourself and do that thing to be the best version of yourself. That's the second part, So I work out so I can be the best version. I can be fit. I can be strong. The thing is, I was running from pillar to post, working, not being a good enough parent, I felt at times, and just, I didn't manage my time well. The thing is, if you give that little time to yourself, you're able to set a path for your day, set a path for your week, a roadmap, and then, something, when you fill up your cup, you can pour from it. You can't pour from an empty cup.
100%.
So self-love is also something I learned only very late in my life, but
It's never too late. That's so refreshing. Everything that you touched upon, right? Especially, I think, with children, where therapy sometimes is a requirement, and still it's so frowned upon. Which is
first time I told my mom I'm going to a therapist. She said, "Why? What happened?" And look, they come from a different
school
world, and I mean, they grew up not. It's like only people who had some serious mental health issues would go to a therapist. Why are you going to a therapist? I said, I need to go to a therapist. And cut to so many years later, mom sends me a message saying, you know, so-and-so auntie's feeling a little depressed. Do you have any therapist number? I said, I can give you 5.
That's amazing. You know, when you spoke earlier about your husband, there's a lot of conversation about loss and how one recovers from a loss like that. And there's no right answer. I feel like every person's journey is so personal, and grief is so intertwined with loss.
Yeah.
What was your process of overcoming something like that, and have you truly overcome it? Because that's a valid question 3 years on.
Yes. So yes, it's been 3 years. It's probably the first time I'm talking about it. When I get invited to be a speaker at places, I said, this is one question that's off the table. I don't normally take it. But the fact is, I am in a position now, a better position to take it. And like I said, the only way out is through. Of course, my children and I, we think of him every day. It's not like we've forgotten him. But I can talk about it without my eyes welling up because I've dealt with it. And the first year was very, 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 very hard because the first of everything is just impossible to deal with. The first birthday, the first anniversary, the first Diwali, the first Christmas, the first New Year, the first of everything, first of your kids' birthdays without. And then the second one is a little bit easier. The third one is a little bit easier. But on all the important occasions, we remember him. There are moments that we just remember him because of a song, because of a... So, I mean, I've done the therapy I've needed to. There are times I still need to do it. I think as human beings, we are just a work in progress. I mean, I don't think our therapy is ever done. Yeah. We'll always need somebody to talk to. We'll always need somebody to vent to. We'll always need, a shoulder to cry on. So it's a work in progress. What I can do now is talk about it like I can. It makes me very emotional, but I will not break down. There was a time I couldn't talk about it.
Yeah.
3 years on, this is the first time I'm actually taking this question. I've never taken this question before. There are people, I've said, I'm not going to take this question, and there'll still be somebody in the audience who'll ask a ridiculous question. So my process was, you have to go through and feel. And if you don't go through and feel and you say, you know what, I did start working, say 2 months after it happened. And I am able, because we are in the business of entertainment, to put my game face on. When the lights come on, the camera comes on, I do what needs to be done. That doesn't mean I'm not feeling something inside. If I've decided to start working, it's because I have to, A, run the show.
Yeah.
I have to support my family and myself. Yeah. That's one. And B, if I have a smiling face and if I'm positive, I'm doing it because I need to do it for my children. I could have been sad sack and I wouldn't be sitting here today.
Yeah.
Right? And I need to give my children a happy home. I want to bring them up the best way I can. I want to give them positivity and I want them to be positive people. So I'm doing what it takes. I'm doing what I need to. That's not that I'm saying that I didn't, process it. I processed it the way I know. And there are times I might have to process it even further, in the time to come.
Yeah.
Like, it's been 6 years that I've had his car, and I have to sell it, and I was holding on to it for emotional reasons, and now I'm selling it, and I'm going to shed a tear when it goes.
Yeah.
So it's a work in progress.
Yeah.
I've dealt with the bulk of it, but I think for the rest of my life, I'll always grieve him a little bit.
Of course, like some obscure thing happens and you think of the
A song one thing I still can't do is I can't listen to Kishore Kumar music.
Yeah.
It brings tears to my eyes.
It's unbelievable strength that you need. And, just the fact that you said that you have to run the show and you have children. And, the fact that you, just what you said, like, have to look in the camera and be okay.
I have to be okay. I have no choice.
Yeah.
And my children can't grow up in a home that is, miserable and sad. I give them the best of me.
Yeah.
Every morning I wake up, and you know what? I've also discovered I have a superpower which I discovered in the pandemic, and that is gratitude. And honestly, during the pandemic, when we were all sitting at home, it just made me realize, and I'm sure a lot of people had this realization, that at the end of the day, what do we work for? We work for food on our table. And for a lot of us, we work to live in a nice home. And I have food on my table, and I live in a beautiful home. So I used to wake up every single morning and say, thank you for the roof over my head. Thank you for the food on my table. Thank you for my parents' health. Thank you for my children's health. And that's how it starts my day. And when you start your day with gratitude, when you start your day feeling thankful, it sets the tone for the rest of the day. So even after Raj passed, for a while I was not feeling any gratitude. I was feeling angry and I was upset and sad. But then when I started to, get myself together, gratitude makes you also focus on what is, as opposed to what isn't.
Not.
Yeah. So if you focus on what is and be grateful for what is, as opposed to focusing on the what ifs and what's not, that's it's a life-changing thing.
It's a shift. It's 100%
It's an absolute shift because you can't be grateful and unhappy at the same time.
Yeah.
You can't be grateful and negative at the same time. Yeah. Coming back to this last 3 years, I had to find my way forward. I say, okay, I have to focus on what is, and I have to concentrate on what is. Yeah. My children, I need to take really good care of them. I need to give them a good education. I need to bring them up really well. I need them to have good values. That's what my focus is. And I'm not going to sit at home and be a miserable sod. I am going to give them a good life. Yeah. And I'm going to bring them up the best possible way I know. Yeah. I'm going to teach them gratitude. And that's how I'm proceeding. They also understand gratitude. I focus so much on thank you that they have no choice but to. And when they go on a play date and come back and the mums message me and they say, you know what, your children are so well behaved. I'm like, yes, I did something right. Yeah. Because in front of me, they're not. Sometimes they can be very irritating, people. And they don't say the thank yous and the pleases that I teach them to say. But when they're outside and they do, that's like, okay.
Yes, they're doing it right.
Something is going right.
Yeah. So I was in a very difficult place last year at some point, and I was speaking to my counselor. She's a coach, actually. She's my success coach. So helps me with business, but also like otherwise. And I was just like, I feel gratitude for nothing. Like, I'm not doing this. Like, she makes me write in a little yellow book. And she's like, let's start by listing your body parts and which of them are not working. And I said, they're all working. She's like, there, that's where it is. And I think that just changed my perspective on so many things, right? That you take it for granted.
Take so much for granted. My God. Granted. 1 minute. It should be the first thing you should be grateful for, that I woke up this morning.
Yeah. I'm alive.
I'm alive.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, there's always so much to be grateful for, and I'm telling you, I live by gratitude. Yeah. And if you live by gratitude, it is a game changer.
Yeah.
It's a shift, like you said.
It is, yeah. My sister just delivered her 3rd son. Oh. She is most grateful for epidural. I will tell you that.
Yeah.
She was just like, oh my God, you don't understand. I was
Yeah,
like,
of course. And that is something to be grateful for.
Yeah.
I'm grateful that I had a C-section. My doctor gave me such a clean cut, and I was back to to exercise 40th day after
Wow.
delivery. Yes,
Yeah, that's
so
awesome.
so much to be grateful for.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for my son. I'm grateful for what he's good at. I'm grateful for what my daughter's good at. I'm grateful for my daughter.
Yeah.
She came into my life, and we are still a unit of 3, a family unit, as opposed to it would have been just Veer and me.
Yeah.
So there's just
too much.
Yeah, too much to be grateful for. And if we were to sit and focus on what isn't, that would just be, so
disservice.
it's a disservice to everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's counterproductive. It doesn't do any good to anyone.
Yeah.
And if you focus on what the more you appreciate, the more there is to appreciate.
Exactly. 100%.
Yeah, always.
So let's talk about that, your motherhood journey, and how did you make this decision to adopt? And again, so refreshing, so path-breaking in so many ways. I've met somebody else who's done that. I interviewed with Sushmita Sen, and absolutely fantastic thought process on the why, right? She was just like, because I was ready to be a mother and I was not ready to settle into a marriage. Why should one come before the other?
Yeah.
Therefore, I adopted, and it is the
Perfect.
best decision of my life. I became a mother at 24, and I was not somebody's wife. And she said that, and I was just like, anyways, I was fangirling the whole
amazing.
interview. Yeah. But how do you come to this decision?
When I was dating Raj, I remember, when you're dating, you talk about what you want to do in life and what you want from life. And at that point I said, something, just want to tell you this, I want to have one and adopt one. Okay, so I when we were talking about kids and stuff, so he was open to the idea. And then when we got married, I was not ready to have kids for a while. I was too busy, doing cricket, and I was a couple of my contracts didn't allow me to get pregnant. I said, so you're not allowed to get pregnant. And then there was someone in my family who was trying really hard to get pregnant and was doing IVFs, and the IVFs were failing. And then suddenly I realized, 1 second, tick tock, I do want to be a mother, and I am not going to let life pass me by, and I do want to be a parent. And so the day I decided, 3 months later I was pregnant.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean,
that's crazy. That's amazing. It's like Need for Speed.
Yeah, Need for Speed. I said, I'm not going to let this time go by.
Yeah.
And I saw what was happening with this relative of
really
mine, and
difficult.
she was, So I was pregnant, and Veer came along, and oh my God, I have to first tell you, when I saw him, I was like, what is this pasty little frog? I mean, I am going to have to commit myself and lose my, not identity, but lose my independence because of him.
Yeah.
It was not love at first sight, let me tell you. And I had a lot of postpartum depression as well during that time. So it took me some time to feel love for him and all that.
Let's highlight that a little bit. To talk to me a little bit about postpartum, because
that's also something people don't talk about.
Exactly. And
it's so sad.
Yeah, it is so
when
common.
you're pregnant, people say, oh, tell us your plans. How long do you plan to breastfeed? What is going to happen? They talk about they romanticize pregnancy and childbirth so much. They'll also talk about the epidural. Are you thinking epidural? Nobody tells you about. Nobody had told me about postpartum depression, and I was feeling like. So I had the baby. At that point, I was not feeling very connected to him. But I would come back home. The moment I came back home, I would just be crying. And my doctors told me, the hormones are all over the place, and that's what it happens. It happens. And my husband would give me a glass of wine. I was allowed 1 glass of wine. Have this glass of wine. And I'm there for you, and support is very important at that particular point of time. You don't know what's going on with you. And the fact that I was just so horribly overweight, and I couldn't exercise, and I was like, now my independence is gone because I've got this little thing I have to look after. And I think somewhere my depression was also connected to the fact that I was not feeling good about myself and my body. And so come 40th day, and I put on a lot of weight during my pregnancy. I put on 22 kilos, and with the delivery I lost 3. That's like, what are these extra 19 kilos doing on my body?
That's a really low, yeah.
So then I'm like, okay, 19 kilos to lose. This is not nice. So the moment the 40th day came, it was pouring, pelting down. I bought myself a raincoat with a hoodie. And I walked in the rain. It was coming down like
a slap.
Yeah, like a slap. But I walked. And I think my depression also, that postpartum depression also cleared around the time because, the endorphins that, all the goodness of exercise kicked in. And I started feeling good about myself. And I started getting a sense of purpose with, okay, this is my goal now to lose the weight and be fit and be what I used to be. I was 52 kilos before, and I have to get back to my pre-pregnancy weight and all that. So it was for about 40 days. And I was not feeling good about myself and the way I felt, the way I looked, the fact that I didn't see light at the end of the tunnel. Let me tell you, at that time, you're feeling like, oh my God, what is just going on?
Yeah.
I've been a career person all my life, and suddenly I'm sitting with like burp clots and...
Yeah, it's confusing.
And I wanted to be a mother. It's not like I didn't want to be a mother. It's not like I didn't have a maternal bone in my body. I am maternal. And so once I got used to it, and once I felt the connection with Veer, it all changed. And then I was like, oh my God, why did I wait so long? Because it was 13 years into our marriage when I got...
Wow.
Yeah, when I got pregnant. I just was so busy running around, doing whatever it is I was doing at the time. But once I became a mom, I said, this is the best thing I've done.
Wow.
This is the best thing I've ever done. And I was like, now I want more. Remember we talked about it? Remember I said that I want to have one, adopt one. So when Veer was about 6 years old, I put the papers in for adoption, and it's not easy. It's just a long process.
Yeah. Everybody we've ever interviewed who's adopted.
I don't know why they don't make it easy.
I think it's because this is my understanding.
No, I understand. Because of trafficking and because of the wrong families they can go to.
Yeah.
Where there's a good family.
Yeah.
I already have a child. I have a track record. The child is alive at 6 years old.
He's very much eating, breathing, sleeping.
Yes. So it took a while, and then when V was 9, and we were into the pandemic, I told Raj, it still hasn't happened. Why is it not happened? We also got a little caught up after putting our papers in. Follow-up wasn't that great. And then in the pandemic, I told Raj, if it's not now, then it's never. So let's, put our foot on the gas. And it was just we redid a couple of the forms, and we were just told that there's a piece of advice I'll give anyone who wants to adopt. They ask for 3 states that you wanted your child to be from, and you just tick 3 boxes because it's a question. But there's also in the finer print a box that says anywhere in India. Just tick that one because your name goes up very fast on that list.
Wow.
So for whatever, because
But you had ticked the location.
I had ticked 3 states: Maharashtra, Delhi, and third one because there was a third one to tick, Himachal.
Yeah.
And eventually they didn't get a match from there or what, because we were also adopting an older child, not a baby. Yeah. And so they were not getting a match, and that's what the delay was for. And the moment I changed it from the 3 states to anywhere in India, 1 month later, Tara's photograph was in our inbox.
Wow.
Yes. And we knew it was coming on a Monday, and Raj and I had this conversation saying it's coming tomorrow. And whatever the photograph is, you're allowed to say no twice or thrice. And then your name goes at the bottom of the list. If you say no 3 times.
Yeah.
So I said, whatever the photograph is, whatever she looks like, we are adopting her. So we shook hands on that. The next day, Tara's photograph came into our inbox, and we were like, yes. We started doing video calls, and it was still the thick of the pandemic. And Raj went to Jabalpur. He traveled alone. Normally, both parents have to go, but he traveled alone, and we took special permission because I wanted to be there for Veer. And then it was this place that we adopted her from is a really small town. And it's like, just see what's meant to be it's written, Maktub. So, small little place called Tikamgarh. and it's 4 hours away from any city. There's no airport. So 4 hours away from Jabalpur, 4 hours away from Indore, 4 hours away from Bhopal. So he went to Jabalpur. He went the night before, 4 in the morning, he drove to Tikamgarh. And the moment the papers and the signing and everything happened, me and Veer flew from Bombay on a private jet. And flew to Jabalpur.
Okay.
Tara and Raj drove back. We met at the airport and we flew back. And for a girl who's never sat in a car before, she took a trip on a private jet.
What a way to
Naseeb.
Yeah, it's written.
It's
yeah.
written.
Wow.
And it was, I mean, we wouldn't have got the private jet otherwise. It's just that it was very dangerous also. It was dangerous to fly at that time. COVID was
at its peak.
Yeah.
No, I see it. Yeah.
So we did it because it was logistics at that particular point of time. And and Veer, who at age 6 wanted a sister, at age 9 didn't want a sister, and everything happened so quickly. So at age 9, when we tell him that, you know what, we are getting your sister, he says, I don't want a sister. And I'm like, what? I said, it's too far gone, it's happening now. And he was a part of a few of the video calls, and he was not impressed, and he was not interested. And I said, see your sister? And he's like, whatever. And then when we went to Jabalpur, he was like, Mom, I don't want a sister. I'm like, what am I doing?
Oh my God.
What am I doing?
Yeah. And
I was very overwhelmed because I said, a little human being, it's not a baby, a little human being is coming into our lives. Our lives are changing forever as of now.
Yeah.
And he was in tears, and I was in tears, and this little girl in a plastic hat comes into Jabalpur airport with Raj. And I look at her, and she's so small, and Veer is still unimpressed. And I'm like, and she was, she took some time to settle into the family, and Veer took his time to settle into liking her. And to begin with, he was like, I said, listen, let's take it 1 week at a time. It's a Tuesday today, and on Tuesday, next we'll do a check-in and see how you're feeling. And we're not returning her, right? We're keeping her.
Yeah.
He says, yeah, but I'm not happy. And so he was okay with that check-in idea. And then maybe 4 weeks into it, I said, how do you feel? He says, my words about Tara can best be summed up by a Drake song. She said, do you love me? I told her only partly. I only love my bed and my mama. I'm sorry.
That's really witty and really smart.
My son is very witty.
Yeah.
He's very cool.
What?
So he said that, and it took him a little while longer to sort of warm up to her, and now he completely accepts her. In fact, while we were doing school online, there was a time he told us there was show and share. There's something called show and share. He said, today for show and share, I'm going to show you my sister who's come from Jabalpur. So he brought her into the frame. And she's like, wow. They now love each other and they like each other's presence.
Yeah.
But they don't necessarily want each other in each other's faces.
All the time.
So
as siblings.
As siblings do.
Yeah. Wow. Sounds like such a...
And I tell you something, sometimes there are moments when I'm lying on the bed and I have Veer on one side and Tara on the other, and I say, I am so privileged. I am so blessed. I'm so lucky. There are very few parents like me to have a journey like this, to be an adoptive parent and a biological parent. There are very few people who have one and adopt one, and I am one of those. I say I'm privileged. I really believe I'm very lucky because it is absolutely unbelievable. This is a child that's come from me. He's got traits that are Raj's and mine. This is a child who came to me as a ready-made person, but she's molded into our family. She sits in the car now and says, Mom, drop the beats. Yeah.
Okay.
And she came to us and she'd say, J ka hai? J kaun hai? She spoke with that accent. And now she's like, Mom, drop the beats. And she'd be like, she's cartwheeling all over the place and she's skateboarding and she's very athletic. Veer is a musician and he's gifted. So he can play by ear. He plays 3 instruments.
Wow.
And I don't have a musical bone in my body. And Tara has got all that, like she's athletic like I was in school. She's fit. She does gymnastics. She skateboards. She's dresses like me. She wears cargo pants and t-shirts. That's how she is, and she's just become and she's got curly hair like I used to have.
Yeah.
So she's just a version of me.
Yeah.
Just not born to me, but is me.
Amazing. I am so like I have so many thoughts on every little, there's so many tabs open in my brain right now because it's just such a fascinating journey. But we're at the end, and I think I want to end with just asking you, to share whatever piece of advice that you think people can take from this, because your journey is so fascinating, and what's amazing about it is you embracing the lows, the highs, the raw, the authentic, and being like, look, this is me, this is my flaw, but I'll work on it. It's a work in progress life.
Always, it is a work in progress, and I think there's so much to learn when you believe you're a work in progress. Yeah. The moment you start thinking you know it, and it's
like
this is
I'm
it.
good, yeah,
I'm good. No, that's not to say before I go on stage and I'm about to do a show, I have to tell myself, you got this.
Yeah, you
got this. You're going to do a really great job today. So you have to tell yourself that. I mean, I believe greatly in manifestation.
Yeah, we're giving each other pep talks all the time.
All the time. That's very important. But yes, there's a lot to learn. And the moment you acknowledge there's a lot to learn, there's so many wonderful things that you do get to learn. Yeah. I look back and I just say, I can't stress this enough. I look back at my journey. I look back at these 30 years in entertainment. Entertainment is a business where women have a shelf life. And I hate the word shelf life, but I say shelf life because it's so disgusting. We are not products. Shelf life. Expired.
Expiry date.
Yes. So it's been 30 years and I'm still in the business and I'm still doing some really nice work and I still love what I do and I'm not jaded. I wake up I love Mondays. By the way, I'm so glad.
We're doing this on a Monday.
Monday is my favorite day of the week. I wake up with like, whoa, what have we got? Yeah. What have we got? What has this week got for me? So I love what I do and that's what keeps my spirit the way it is. I'm grateful for everything, the big, the small, the in-between. So if I want to give anybody a message, it's just look around you. Just look around you. There's always so much to be grateful for. If you start writing a list and if you start writing a gratitude journal, you realize that, in your day, you'll have 5 new things to be grateful for, apart from the constants. So practice life and practice a life of gratitude, with gratitude. And love yourself. Do that little something every day that takes care of you so that you can be the best you that you can be.
Wow. Thank you so much for that. And it's been such a lovely chat. And I'm so inspired. I honestly can't wait. I feel like you've given me this whole new, I can do it kind of.
Of course you can do it. You've got this.
Yeah.
You've got this.
So thank you so much. And it's been so lovely. And I'm going to get your books and I'm going to do everything that you've said. So thank you.
Thank you.
If you like this episode, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit that bell icon. Thank you all for being the best community and I'll see you soon.